It's the Growler with PD and J. Here to analyze for you today. From Growler bad to Jay's got stats. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Growler Podcast.
All right. Welcome into the latest edition of PD and J on the Growler. Paul Daner Jr. here with Jay Morrison. How are we doing?
Doing great. Ring of Honor Day. Nice to hear from those guys. And one step closer to mock turtle soup.
Oh, it's right around the corner. It's just days away till we can have that beautiful cup of mock turtle soup placed in front of us, signifying the start of football season. And camp is next week. This time next week.
Yeah.
Jay, as we record this right now on Wednesday morning.
Yeah.
We will be watching the first practice of training camp at this point. And I can't tell you how excited I am to be talking about watching players on the field rather than what they are doing elsewhere or in contract negotiations. That will be a nice change of pace.
Yeah, at this exact time, it's almost noon as we record this, so we will be walking off the field most likely after that first practice and getting ready to do our first post-practice podcast for all of you guys.
Yeah, looking forward to that. The camp walkouts.
Yeah.
Many people really liked those last year, so we'll be doing those again, having a lot of fun with that. Really look forward to all of that stuff we're going to have for you. Of course, we have tons of stuff coming your way, not just with camp, but in season. So excited about all the stuff that we're going to be doing this year. I've been talking to tons of people about ways that we can have more fun with the coverage, and I think we're going to be doing that. So I'm excited. We have all of our live shows are back, of course. Again, this year we'll have so much more information coming on that soon, but you know where to find it down at BetMGM, down at the banks. So we'll be down there for all of the fun this year. We're giving away Bengals tickets.
Yeah.
Giving away Bengals tickets at every single live show that we do this year. So make sure you're coming down and attending those. A lot more fun announcements about that in the future. If you're not watching or listening to Power Stacks, if you're a Reds fan right now, make sure you're checking it out. Trade Deadline Apalooza is currently up, where Charlie and Brian go into every possible aspect of how the Reds are viewing the trade deadline. It is an awesome episode. Go subscribe to their YouTube channel right now because they're just crushing it. We have a future Growler Stacks crossover episode coming away. I can only tell you, I think you're going to really enjoy it. I know that we're really excited about bringing it to you. So keep an eye out for all of that. But today, we are going to bring in our good friend Mo Egger is going to join us here in a minute, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Ring of Honor and Dave Lapham and Lemar Parrish getting in to the Bengals Ring of Honor, and where do they go from here with the Ring of Honor? Some thoughts on Lap and some thoughts on Lemar Parrish. You're going to hear from both of those guys about what they had to say about being inducted into the ring that is about to change. We'll also break out some of our under the radar camp storylines, with camp just coming around the corner. We're going to talk a little bit about what to expect. What should you expect during training camp this year? What will we be following that maybe you haven't been thinking about? Excited to touch on a few of those. We'll have some stats, some ARBIES, all of that stuff coming your way. But first, before we do that, I do need to remind all of you, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM, make sure you do it. Use the bonus code Growler, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM, which when you come down to these live shows this year, we're going to have promo boosts if you come down and you bet at the kiosks down there. So free extra money is going to be coming your way. Get ready for that this season. But what you need to do first is download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code Growler, all caps on Growler. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive the same bet amount up to $1,500 in a bonus bet if your bet loses. So just make sure you use the bonus code Growler when you're signing up, and they can cover you. Jay's theory proved out in the last home weekend for the Reds. You know, you can always bet against the Rockies. They'll never win twice in a row. And sure enough, even though Friday didn't go your way, the second bet would have hit for you on Saturday, Jay. It just right in front of all of our eyes. I was confident. I was at the Saturday game and I'm watching and I'm like, Jay told me a long time ago that the Rockies will never win 2 in a row. And even though there were moments, there were doubts.
Yeah.
They came through. Anyway, don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code Growler and get $1,500 first bet offer today. All right. On that note, I do want to bring in our good friend, Mo Egger, as we switch here a little bit and talk a little bit about the Ring of Honor. And we have Lemar Parrish and we have Dave Lapham going into the Ring of Honor. Mo's here in his Sunday best. Is this a collar?
It's a collar. Yeah.
We got a collar out of you?
It's for the Ring of Honor.
Yeah. Wow. I appreciate you going next level for us here today.
No problem.
Yeah.
Anything for you guys. I'm trying to class this place up.
Yeah. Well, you always have. I mean, I think you just generally do. I've always felt that way.
Yeah.
Before we, bring a couple of you can hear a couple comments from Lap and from Lemar Parrish. Mo, we have talked a lot about Dave Lapham and his case for the Ring of Honor. What sort of your initial reaction when you heard the news that Lap finally was getting his moment to get in?
We got it right. Bengals fans who voted, and I was among them, got it right, both with Dave Lapham and Lemar Parrish, who I'm sure we'll talk about. And so the Dave Lapham part, we talked about this a year ago. This was a no-brainer. I think once you got past, as we've been doing this, that first wave of Hall of Fame guys, Hall of Fame caliber guys, some of the faces of the franchise, former MVPs, the Willie Andersons, the Ken Andersons, the Boomers, the Chads, Anthony Munoz, Paul Brown. Once you kind of got past that tier, Dave Lapham to me was a very easy choice. You take his track record with the organization, first of all, was a very good player. I didn't realize this until I read Dan Hord's outstanding Facebook post today, that twice he played all 5 offensive line positions in the same game. Versatility, was on the 81 Super Bowl team, a good player. But what he has done behind the microphone as an ambassador for this team, and by the way, he is a terrific broadcaster. My bosses won't like me saying this. I know there are a lot of people who really don't listen to the radio broadcast because they watch the game on TV. They don't sync up the audio, even though they should. They're at the home games, and they might not get a chance to listen to a complete Bengals radio broadcast. So what they hear are the Dave Lapham-isms, or they hear the excitement for the team. The color analysis is second to none. He's a great broadcaster, and I literally have never heard anybody say anything negative about him. And in the broadcasting business, that's pretty damn rare. So I'm thrilled for him personally. I think this is a no-brainer, and I was really, really happy because I was sorely disappointed last year that he didn't get in, and I thought that was a misstep by the voters. We didn't repeat the same mistake this year, and that makes me happy.
I think it's great that yes, it would have been good for him to go in last year, but we all like round numbers, and this being his 50th year with the organization, sure, he's going to have his 1,000th game. I think it just kind of slots in pretty nice. Sure. And what you bring up is a great point, because when I started covering the team, I would listen to the game on the radio while watching it, because Lap's insight is so good. And it's to the point now where the delay, it makes it a little frustrating, because you see a play and then you hear it like 2 plays later, the description. So I quit doing that. But even, for the people that may think they know Lap because they hear the highlights on their podcast or on other shows, it goes way deeper than that. His just in-depth from play to play to play is really good.
Yeah, and I think with Lap as a broadcaster, I was thinking about this today, like he kind of did it the hard way. Lap was on TV all the time when I was a kid, doing Xavier basketball games. He did a sports talk radio show. He's done Big 12 games. Like, as a broadcaster, Dave Lapham has accomplished a lot, and I don't think was necessarily handed a broadcasting gig because he was a former player. But, for those of us who are old enough to remember blackouts, and I certainly do, back when I was a teenager And in college, when I wasn't going to home games, they weren't on TV very often when they played at home. So you had to listen to the radio broadcast. And Dave's had a lot of different partners. I'm biased in that the guy that he's working with, Dan Hort, is the best of the best. And so it's a great team. But this is, you're right. I mean, it's just 50 years, his 1000th game. We love round numbers. I think had we be sitting here today talking about Dave Lapham not getting in, no slight to anybody who would have gotten in ahead of him, I think that would have been criminal. And my take would have been then just put him in, right? Any other franchise, a broadcaster, a person, an ambassador of that stature for so long is honored in some sort of concrete way. Fortunately, voters got it right. Dave Lapham goes in, and it's awesome.
One thing I want to say that I think comes across, and maybe this is just my perspective, you know, I've been lucky enough to be in the same media room with Lap for whatever 15 years now. And as that number has grown, I have so much more appreciated Lap's passion, like to keep it going. Okay. When it's just, it can be so stale when you get the repetitive nature of seasons and football and to continue to get as excited as he gets and care as much about the minutia and the details, which are so important to his job. But it doesn't even feel like a job to him. He just loves it, and he loves it as much now as he did when I first met him 15 years ago, and I'm almost assuredly can say probably 40 years ago. To see that passion and that detail that he goes into and keeps for it every single day for the team, for the sport, for the jobs that these players and coaches are doing is really cool and something that I truly admire in the job that he does. And I know comes across in the broadcast beyond, you know, the screaming stuff that people love behind big plays. Like it's truly in the passion for the right analysis. And that is a really hard thing to do. And that when you couple that, I think, with what came across when we talked to him today that I wanted to make sure I touch on is just, I remember doing a ride-along story when I was at the Inquirer with Dan and with Lap, and it was sort of about how much more they do for the team besides just the broadcasts at the time. And I remember how much Lap had this incredible humility and gratitude for the position he was in when I first kind of got to know him a little bit more that way. And it really stood out. And then you heard it again today. I want to bring in this little 2 minutes from Lap today, and you hear just some of how humble and how gracious he is about what he's been able to do.
It's shocking, really, just to be here. It really is. It's mind-boggling. When you first start playing the game of football as a young kid, you hope you might be able to make it to the National Football League, and then if you can make it there, you hope you can survive a final cut and play, you know, and then if you can play for a number of years, that's the ultimate dream. And then to be able to be allowed to broadcast National Football League games with the Cincinnati Bengals in the radio broadcast booth is like, are you kidding me? That's another dream, two separate dreams, and to be able to fulfill and live them both with the Cincinnati Bengals organization is just incredible in my mind. Something I never ever expected or anticipated. I hoped, certainly hoped for it, and now to be able to, you know, to fulfill that hope, and I can't thank the Bengals organization enough. The Brown family, the Blackburn family have been nothing but class to work with, and have given me opportunities that, you know, are not given to people in a normal course of a career, and to be part of that is a dream come true. It's a life's dream, there's no doubt, and to be able to fulfill it, to be able to live that dream in real life in real time is just absolutely mind-boggling. But I do, again, want to thank the the Brown Blackburn family for the opportunity to be part of this outstanding group of men in the Ring of Honor, and to realize that it's going to be there forever. Nobody will be able to do anything to change it, and it's a lifetime honor, and I just want to pinch myself to make sure it's a fact, to make sure it's real.
Dave Lapham there for today, speaking with the media after the announcement. It comes across, and that's genuine. I mean, Mo, we all know Lap relatively well from being around him. Like, that's genuinely the way he is and the way he approaches walking in that door every single day.
You talk about him as a broadcaster, and people hear the enthusiasm for the team and the excitement, and sometimes, and it's part of his charm, he'll jump on the play-by-play guy's call, whether it's been Dan Hort or Brad Johansson or go back in the day, Pete Arbogast, whoever it's been, even broadcasters before him. But if you listen to a broadcast, he's not a homer. He'll bring out the knife if he has to, and not in a personal way, but and I've heard him talk about this before, that you give the Bengals a lot of credit for letting him be critical. And God knows, over the decades calling those games, there have been plenty of opportunities. If you listen to a broadcast, he'll second guess a coach, he'll second guess a play call, he'll second guess a personnel decision, he'll be critical of a player if he's not prepared, he'll be critical of a player if he's not doing his job. And so I've heard people describe him as a homer, and I go, no. The homer is the guy who's never going to be critical. The homer is the guy who compromises his audience by not being willing to tell the truth. When you listen to a Bengals broadcast, we're as a fan, you're rooting for the best, but when you're not getting the best, Dave will come out and say, so-and-so's not doing his job. This decision should have been this. Here's why this didn't work and who should be held accountable. And I gather, and I admittedly don't listen to a lot of other hometown NFL radio broadcasts, I would imagine that is becoming in a much shorter supply than it used to be.
Yeah, because they're worried about you get a little too critical and you're gone. And that's one thing about Dave. He's not done it longer than anyone else, but he is the longest active play-by-play or color guy in the league. I mean, it's been a heck of a run. And I do think we kind of gloss over a little bit how good of a player he was because of the broadcasting career is so long. And, as someone as a young teenager, when I first started watching the Bengals and he was the offensive lineman, and the versatility is the one thing that a lot of people point towards. But I mean, he was a starting guard on a Super Bowl team, and he started a lot of games, played a lot of games, and he is deserving of being in there as much for his playing career. Maybe it would be a couple years down the road if it was just playing and he wasn't a broadcaster, but you put them both together and he is an obvious choice to be in there.
No question. If you look at, because I know we're going to talk about Lemar Parrish, approximate value on Pro Football Reference, Dave Lapham is 27th in franchise history. That's nothing to sneeze at by any stretch of the imagination.
Let's talk about Lemar Parrish. Lemar Parrish goes in. You mentioned it, Mo. You feel like the voters got this one right. I mean, Lemar was a legend in his own right, opposite Ken Riley, and just as a dynamic playmaker. Where did you fall on why Lemar was always the guy that you picked, Mo, when you put in the vote for this year as the one over a bunch of other, obviously also highly qualified candidates?
Yeah, any one of these other guys could have gotten in, and it would have been deserved. My take all along, the three of us have talked about this, I would have just put this entire group of nominees in. I would have done one per home game, and we'd start fresh in 2 years with a new ballot. In the absence of that, my criteria as a voter and as a season ticket holder, I did vote, was I looked at the two oldest guys, and that's maybe not the most scientific, or maybe it's the most short-sighted way of doing it. Lemar Parrish last stopped playing for the Bengals the year I was born. So to me, it was Lemar or Bob Trumpy. I certainly hope Trump gets in next year. I don't want to make these guys wait any longer. And so I looked at Lemar Parrish, I looked at Bob Trumpy, and I used admittedly a flawed metric, approximate value, footballreference.com. The guy who's on the ballot who's not already in the Ring of Honor or not yet eligible, who has the highest approximate value number is Reggie Williams. Reggie Williams deserves to be in. Reggie Williams has had his own health problems. Lemar Parrish is right behind him. And so I split Lemar, Bob Trumpy. I was going to vote for one of those two. I looked at that metric. I put Lemar in. Admittedly, I didn't maybe vet it out as much as I should have. I want to lessen the possibility that we have another Ken Riley situation where he goes in and he's not here for it.
Mhm.
So I certainly hope Lemar Parrish lives forever. Same for Bob Trumpy, same for all these guys. I don't want to make these guys who are the oldest in the class to wait any longer. I hate, and I said this on my show, I said this, I think, on your podcast. I know I put this out there on social media. I hate that this process has us putting Lemar Parrish versus Bob Trumpy. At least it did for me. Trump last played for the Bengals in the mid-'70s. I hate that we are putting these two guys against each other. I hope to God Bob Trumpy gets in next year and he's there for it and gets celebrated appropriately. But I eliminated the younger candidates, James Brooks, Chris Collinsworth, Jim Breach, at all, because they're going to get their time. We certainly hope. Again, we're trying to make up for lost time here. So if you're doing that, you start with the guys who would have gone in decades ago, had the Bengals done this decades ago, and that started with the older guys. And then I had to split hairs, and I took Lemar over Bob Trumpy. And Bob Trumpy is a guy that I idolize, so that was not an easy decision.
Yeah, and I think it's right. I kind of compare Lemar. I'm glad because Elizabeth Blackburn talked about record voting this year. I think a lot of that was the support for Lap, but it is pretty remarkable that most of the people voting probably never saw Lemar play.
Mhm.
And even the ones that did, he played in a shadow. He played in Ken Riley's shadow, and I think people forget how good he was. He kind of reminds me of Davey Concepcion because Davey was in the shadow of all the great eight, and he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. And so I am glad that Lemar got in. I would love to see some sort of change where maybe they make it like the Pro Football Hall of Fame, where you have like a veteran committee. So maybe you put two in a vote, and you start getting to the more modern guys, and even then you still have to weigh Gino and Witt and those guys over the James Brookses and the Chris Collinsworths. It's going to be tough no matter what they come up with. But I was right there with you. I knew it was going to be Lap, and then it was like, okay, is it going to be Trumpy or Lemar? And I do think Lemar deserves this.
I do want to bring in this answer from Lemar Parrish with us today. Jay, you asked him about when he was traded, and we thought this was an interesting answer from Lemar Parrish.
Hey, Lemar, I'm curious about something, and I'm sorry if it opens old wounds, but you were in your prime when they traded you. Were there hard feelings at the time? And if so, when did the relationship with the Bengals kind of come back together?
Never had hard feelings. In fact, I got total respect for Coach Brown and Mike Brown, and because they have been good to me. The football is a business. It's a game, but it's a business within the game. And I understood, you understand me, because I was asking for a certain amount, and it was business with Paul, and it was business with me also. So we just had to do what we had to do, and I don't have any animosity toward Paul or Mike, because Mike Brown has been really good to me, you understand me? Because when I was coaching, I would call him, I would ask him for equipment, for shoes and stuff like that. He never said no. So I don't have any hard feelings. The Bengals gave me the opportunity. Paul Brown gave me the opportunity. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful because I don't know where I would have got drafted at. And then he gave me the opportunity to showcase my talent, and I'm grateful. The Bengals will always be my team.
There's Lemar Parrish today. Great to hear from him. And all this stuff, that when you hear, we talked about how gracious you hear that from Lemar as well as you did from Lap. It just really, I think, speaks to your point when we hear Elizabeth talking about where they're going to announce before next year how they're going to do this going forward. Clear the deck. Clear the deck. I couldn't agree with you more, Mo. Like, I just feel like I don't want us to be looking at this list anymore. Jim Breach, James Brooks, Chris Collinsworth, David Fulcher, Max Montoya, Bob Trumpy, Reggie Williams. These are all legends, admitted legends. And I had John Breach on, who works for CBS. I had him on last week, and I was curious, as a family member going through this process, we know how he feels about wanting it, about the idea of, would it feel less? Would it matter less if you were in a year where all of these names kind of went in together, or is there like a waiting that, and he was, no, there's no feeling less about any of that. I think everybody just wants it for these people that deserve it, and feels the same way that you do about it. To me, I think then once you do that and we stop looking at this list, then we can start it. You can start being more discriminatory in terms of how much you spread it out, maybe one every 2 years, maybe less than that, whatever you want to do at that point, you can do that. But I don't think you can do anything else in changing it that doesn't start with all of these names are in that I just read.
The Bengals sent out a survey to fans related to this. I like taking surveys.
You do?
Yeah. They sent out a survey a couple of weeks after the voting, and it was about this. And I should have kept it. I should have copied it. But it was asking for our feedback on the process, what we would do, names we would include on future ballots. And my suggestion was, let's take a year off from voting. Let's not add anybody, and take the people who didn't get in this year and put them all in next year. The Bengals are going to have 8 home games next season, maybe 7 if there's an international game. I believe there are 7 men remaining on the ballot. Put those 7 guys in, do 1 per game. If you have 8 games, skip 1. And let's just, the player who played most recently that has been on the ballot is James Brooks, who last played in 1992. It's over 3 decades ago. So you could do the very easy thing, which God knows I've done, and that's bang on the Bengals for waiting so long. Okay, you can't go back in time. You can right wrongs. James Brooks should be inducted into the Bengals Ring of Honor, and had they had one a while ago, he already would be there. Why make him wait? Jim Breach is, I think, 69 years old. Why make him wait? Why make Reggie Williams a Walter Payton Man of the Year? Why make Bob Trump? He's 80. Turned 80 this year. Why make him wait? Why pit these players against each other? So I said, they never listen to me, of course, but I wrote, let's spend 2026 essentially righting the wrongs of not having a Ring of Honor 20, 30 years ago, and let's put these guys in. Then let's start fresh, and let's examine if the voting is the way they're voting now is the best way to do it. Let's examine whether or not it makes sense to put in 1 person a year. Let's talk about when we're going to put coaches on the ballot, like Forrest Gregg or Marvin Lewis or Sam Weish. Let's talk about how long a player has to wait after he's retired. I think the way they do it moving forward could be really fun and really interesting. I don't want to make Andrew Whitworth go up against Chris Collinsworth. I don't want to make A.J. Green go up against James Brooks. And God knows I don't want to make Jim Breach or Bob Trumpy go up against a Geno Atkins. That's not fair to them. That is not fair to them. So put him in. Is anybody not going to go to a Bengals game? Is anybody going to turn their back on the Ring of Honor ceremony if any one of those guys gets in next year? So let's go ahead and do this the right way. Let's right some wrong. Essentially, without saying it, admit it. We should have done this a while ago. We're putting these men in. We're going to celebrate each one of them individually, and then we're going to start fresh, and it's going to be a lot of fun to talk about who gets in, who doesn't get in, and what the balloting is going to look like moving forward.
Yeah, I love your idea of doing 1 per game, and especially, I mean, it's just one guy, but John Breach talking about it doesn't matter if it's expanded, just the act of getting in, and so you got the 7 holdovers, and then either Forrest or Sam could be, and unfortunately, neither one of them is with us anymore, but I think that would be the way to go, and then figure out a way to go forward where if it's maybe the team picks one. Maybe the team's already picked one. I'm not sure how how valid the voting is. I think that, you know, I don't want to be cynical about it, but I think because I do wonder how so many of the young people are voting, and I do wonder if it's leaning more that way. Although there's really not any young guys on that ballot, but a fan vote and then a team vote, and you don't have to say which is which, but that would be the way to go. I think next year it'd make a lot of fun to every game a different guy goes in.
However you want to do it, as long as it gets done. Like I don't
yeah.
do the weekend where you have 7 or there's a special ceremony or something before or after. Like it doesn't matter how or where you do it, as long as when you start your new process, we don't have to talk about these guys anymore because they're already up there. It's like we've heard today. It's like to have the weekend is a thing, a great thing for what they care about most. And then the fact that, look, it's up there forever and their grandkids can say, boy, that's really cool. Grandpop, as Dave Lapham referenced, was honored by the team that way. Like those are the two things that need to happen. No one will care whether there was a year where 7 all went in together when you think about it in the long run, not these people, not their families or anybody associated.
It's their Ring of Honor. They can do whatever they want. So they can change the rules on the fly. They could decide today, and I don't expect them to do that, but they could decide today, you know what? Bob Trumpy's going in. He's 80.
Yeah.
We're not going to make him wait anymore. They could decide today, and who would cry about it, right? Who would go, oh, man, I'm not going to that game. Like, they could legitimately, and I wrote this in my, because they asked for open-ended suggestions. I'm like, just put these guys in. Do it now. Like, all right, you're having a Ring of Honor game, but if they decided, you know what, one of those games is going to be Bob Trumpy's game, we're putting him in. Awesome. Like you can adjust this on the fly. You can adjust this based on circumstance, and no one's going to take major issue with it. So I certainly do believe that next year, let's go ahead, put these guys in, and then let's discuss what this is going to look like moving forward. But they do have the freedom and flexibility. It's their Ring of Honor to go, you know what? F it. We're putting Bob Trumpy and Reggie Williams in. And then next year we'll put some it's their Ring of Honor. There's nothing that's set in stone that says that the way it is now and how it has to be. So I don't expect that to happen, but it can.
Mo, I appreciate your time. I know that it's going to be great. We're going to get a lot of extra time to hang out this training camp, aren't we?
Yeah, we're doing the Tony and Mo training camp show. We're going to be on from training camp. We're going to be on while they practice. So I've told Tony, you can be Dave Lapham and I'll be Dan Horde, and we'll call the training camp practice as they're happening.
You need to practice calling stretches. Like, I'm curious what you're going to be doing during the stretching and the hopping portion. I want to know more about your analysis of team stretch and some of the more boring elements, individual workout. Like
Here comes Dylan Fairchild to get a drink of water. Okay, boy. Oh, 2 gulps from Dylan there. I don't know.
2 gulps.
We are thinking about having our own Ring of Honor ceremony that we are going to induct Shamar Stewart and his agent into the ESPN 1530 Ring of Honor. We're not even making him wait. We're just going to go ahead and put him in because
obviously.
I had to
because he's given so much
podcast.
to this. He's given so much to the broadcast. There's no doubt about it. Mo, I look forward to all the time that we will be spending together down at training camp starting next week. I hope they are giving you a tent and a couple of chairs. I have some stools if you need some. Jay and I, we bring our own stools. So if you need some assistance, if it's a chair-free situation, I can hook you up with some very nice stools.
I'm trying to figure out if I need to bring my own hydration. So
recommended.
Yeah,
you might want to get one of those Stanley, one of those big dumb cups. You might want one of those. So
oh God, we have a few of those.
All right, Mo, appreciate it. We'll talk to you later.
You got it, man. See ya.
All right, Mo Egger. Good. I feel like we've talked about that in different spots and in different ways over the years, over the summer. It's good to kind of tie one last bow on this thing on Ring of Honor Day. And congrats again to Lap and to Lemar Parrish for getting in. And let's hope that they can get it right in whatever goes forward. And let's just put these put these remaining 7 in.
Yeah, I agree. I do you know who they traded Lemar Parrish for?
Let's hear it.
It was he had 4 straight Pro Bowl seasons. I mean, he was 30, but he was in his prime. They traded him and Coy Bacon for a first-round pick that turned into Charles Alexander, who was a complimentary running back that was part of that first Super Bowl team. But yeah, 2 big-time defensive players for a first-round pick back in '77. This is before free agency. Lamar wanted to get paid. The Bengals didn't want to pay him, and there was no option to just let him walk. They had to trade him.
Well, he was a hell of a player, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. So we'd have to, back in the day, we have to grade the trade. How would you grade the trade, Jay?
Whew, I got to go back and look. I can't remember how old Coy Bacon was at the time, but I think he was up there too. So I'm thinking if you trade 2 30-year-olds for a first-round pick, that's at the time of the trade, I think that's pretty good. I don't think Charles Alexander ever kind of lived up to the first-round billing, but on the surface, if you're grading the trade the day after, I think it would have looked pretty good.
Yeah. Well, so good for them. Congratulations. Let's flip forward to the current team before we get out of here. We're not going to just do all history and off-field stuff today. Training camp is right around the corner, as we mentioned. And when we do that, we want to talk a little bit about what we're going to be watching. And everybody has the same storylines. Jay, I don't know about you, but everything I go on, or even when we talks about Bengals, it starts with Stewart and Hendrickson, and that's fine. I'm making this a Shamar Stewart free zone. I might do this for the duration of camp. I might go this podcast anytime we're under the Growler logo up here. Okay. It's going to be it might have to be a Shamar Stewart free zone where we're not going to do it. I'm not going to get into the blow by blow and the play by play of all this. I'm going to try. I understand that's very hard to do, but I'm going to attempt because I don't know. Hit me up. Hit us up, thegrowlerpodcast@gmail.com. Send us tweets, whatever. Are you still in? Do you want it? Do you want the play-by-play? Do you want more grinding through the details of will he, won't he, what time will he? Like, if you want that, I'm here to bring, but I feel like there's a little bit of I'm here to zig while everyone else is zagging and say, Shamar Stewart free zone, let's talk football. Football is going to be happening. A lot of things are going to be happening with the players that are on the field, and maybe Shamar will be one of them. And when that's the case, we'll talk about his football skills. But until then, I'm comfortable doing it. Jay, are you with me? Are you coming with me?
I'm totally with you because I don't think there's going to be anything other than what color hat is he wearing today. I think he learned his lesson from popping off in OTA. I don't think we're going to hear much from Shamar Stewart until a deal's done. So what is there going to be to discuss?
Yeah, fine by me. Let's talk about under the radar storylines that we are most interested in for camp. So we're taking Stewart and Hendrickson, and I might even throw Burrow unless you have a good under the radar Burrow storyline that you want to get in there. I'd throw him out as well. Under the radar, maybe something that you're looking forward to that we haven't spent a lot of time discussed or we haven't seen discussed when practice starts next week.
I mean, mine's kind of Burrow adjacent. It's what does Dylan Fairchild look like, and how fast does he look like he's getting up to speed? And it just feels as though they drafted him and handed him the starting job. They didn't say that. They said it's his to lose. But they've struggled to have these guys, to bring these offensive linemen in as draft picks and have them hit. And I think for a 3rd round pick, it's nothing against Dylan, but I just think there's a little too big of an assumption that he's going to be the guy. So it really is kind of hard to tell until they get into the meat of training camp and start popping and thudding. And it's hard to judge offensive line play, even when it's not, actual run game. But that is going to be a big one for me. Does he look the part? Does he look like he is going to be the answer they need him to be?
Remember last year when it was all going to be, even despite how well Amarius Mims had been playing, and who knows what would happen if he didn't get hurt last camp. But it was like, Trent Brown's going to be here. and basically hold the spot with some veteran baseline level tackle play until Mims is ready and we're comfortable with him. And then he came in and was so good, and it looked like before his injury, this dude's just going to play immediately. And he did play immediately once he was healthy because it coincided with Trent Brown getting hurt. But this kind of has that same feel to me, whether it's Cody Ford or Cordell Volson. I feel like there's a lot of safety in a plan that starts with Ford or Volson as your starter while you get Dylan Fairchild's feet wet, unless he really shines in camp. I know they said it's his to lose. I think they want him to feel like that path is clear, but he has to go look pretty damn good in camp for you to just say week 1 in Cleveland, when Myles Garrett is in front of him doing the basketball through the legs dribble thing, that you're going to want him out there and not somebody who's been in the wars before, at least for a game or two, until you can have some time to build that up and maybe bring him in as a replacement, whatever. I just think I need to see a lot there. So I'm with, like, I think it's interesting, but I think that could be a plan. Like, if I was doing, let's run, pass, or boot it, starting left guard, opening day, Volson, Ford, Fairchild, where are you going?
I think I would run with Fairchild because they want it to happen, and they're going to give him every chance to do it. And I think there's enough other security on the line where they won't hesitate as much as if they have issues elsewhere and they can't have multiple holes on that line. I mean, I would pass on Ford and boot Volson at this point, but I think that's going to be a side benefit of playing the starters more in the preseason, because you get him in there with that first group and can really judge how he's meshing and getting the concepts down. To be a little different if you're saying we're not going to play our starters, but you would certainly play him and he would be in there with a backup offensive line, and that's a little tougher to gauge. So I think he's going to get a shot to prove himself. Obviously, he's going to be running with the ones in practice, but getting that shot to really prove himself in the preseason games, and he would be my pick to run with.
Yeah, I might run with Ford, just by virtue of they like him. He's a veteran. No matter where they threw him in last year, he was serviceable. And I think in those first couple of weeks, they're going to be looking for serviceable out of that guard position. And I could see them saying, as a default setting, like, Dylan, he's just not quite ready yet. You know, he looks like a 3rd-round rookie right now. I think we have a better chance of winning today with Cody Ford. Now, week 8, I think Dylan Fairchild is the starter. Maybe even week 5, whatever. I'm running with that. I might run with Cody Ford right now, just by the nature of I just have a hard time believing that Fairchild's just going to be clearly that guy throughout all of camp and preseason. Maybe he is, but I feel like there's a default setting there where Cody Ford could be this year's Trent Brown, depending on what you see. I'll switch over a little bit, and this is this is nitpicky, admittedly, by me going a little deep, but I've been thinking about it a little more as I've been kind of talking through. I always love doing the WAR formula, wins above replacement. Who could the Bengals least afford to lose based on how good they are, importance of the position, and also what they have behind them, how reliant the offense is on the skill set that they bring. Is it replicable by others? What happens if an injury happens at safety? Are you all in with, like, is it just Tyson Anderson? I would like to see. I think Tyson Anderson deserves more love and respect as a player. I think if something happened to Geno Stone or Jordan Battle, that Tyson Anderson could be a guy. I'm really curious to see if he can have a healthy year. All he's done is done great at what you've asked him to do. He's been a Pro Bowl, all-pro level special teamer. When he played in the preseason, all he did was have a couple of picks, taking him to the house. You know, like, he's had moments when asked to play the position. I want to see what under the radar. I'm really curious what Tyson Anderson looks like as a potential answer at a position where there's questions. And what do they have there? And it's already uncertainty. Battle's had uncertainty in the past. Geno Stone was asked to take a pay cut, although we love you. And so I'm curious to see Tyson Anderson. How about that for Tyson Anderson playing safety as an under the radar storyline? I'm curious about.
Yeah, and it's a delicate balance for Al because you do have a new coordinator, a new system. You're trying to get everybody to gel. You want people to be familiar with each other. Can you afford to rotate Tyson in Jordan Battle's spot for some reps and then rotate him in on Geno? Or do you want to have that DB group all together and learning on the fly and coming together? So that is interesting because maybe the answer there is to do some more 3 safety sets, and then you can kind of move those guys around, and you can get Tyson on the field with Battle and with Geno. But I'm with you because I do think he's earned the opportunity. Is he still? I think he's at 1 defensive snap for his entire career. And I mean, so do we? Yeah, preseason he's played and looked good, but you don't really know. I mean, you see it in practice, and he doesn't look like a liability when he's in there in practice. So it would be smart to get them in and get some reps and see what he can do because of what you said. You never know when an injury is going to hit.
He will have 3 preseason games where he's going to play a lot.
Yeah.
Just by then, even with the starters playing a little more, he's going to play a lot. And I'm going to be really interested in what he looks like at safety when they're playing. Otherwise, where are you at? Where are you at if an injury happens with your depth? There are veterans that are out there if you'd want to go down that road. But I'm curious. So it's very under the radar. Maybe I went too far under the radar, but I am interested in that.
Yeah, and my next one kind of piggybacks off of that because it was going to be, or it is, where is Dax Hill in his recovery, and what does that alignment at quarterback look like? And is Dax going to be the 3rd down specialist against tight ends? And if he's not ready, maybe that's a role Tyson could step into. But I am really curious to see if it's just going to be an amoeba type of defense where they're playing all over, or if Al is going to put them in certain positions. And if he is, who's where, and how long do we have to wait to see it? Because I'm sure they're going to go slow with Dax and kind of ease him in the way they did with Cheeto when he was coming off his ACL. Cheeto's was a little later in the year. I believe it was week 8 for him. It was week 5 for Dax. So he's almost got a full month of recovery ahead of him. But I don't think we're going to see Dax in a full load right when camp starts. And it's going to be interesting to see how many different guys they use in the slot, and can Josh Newton make a name for himself and then kind of fight for more playing time there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of different options there, and a bunch of young guys that have the chance to be a leap player. All of them, really.
Yeah,
I mean, every single one of them. You could see being a leap player that becomes a starter and a real dude for this defense. You could see that path. Dax is fascinating because he won't be in the mix initially, and we saw him play so well at outside. And are you going to move this guy's position again? When you felt like he was just starting to really find himself and was arguably I think was the best corner on the team last year if you just throw out the sample size element, and he was just picking it up. He was just figuring it all out. I think he has a potential to have a huge year. But you're right. We don't know how Al's system will revolve around that, how he envisions Dax, how much it means outside versus in. It's a really unknown, and I don't know how much we'll see early just because he won't be out there. So I'm with you. That's going to be interesting to see, especially as things go along and you start to see him work in a little bit more. I know I said this is a Shamar Stewart free zone, and it is, but I'm going to go under the radar of that. What about we have this trend in the league right now where almost none of the 2nd round picks are signed. There's this thing hanging out there where the 2nd round picks are going to be trying to get this guaranteed money as being a part. So that's why you don't see any of them signed anywhere. That includes Demetrius Knight Jr. Now, Demetrius Knight Jr. in the offseason portion was starting at linebacker next to Logan Wilson and being talked about as a leader on this team already. And we've spent a lot of time heaping praise on him. And we did the fan survey, and he's the guy that has the highest expectations out of anybody in terms of positive impact expected this year. They're already counting on him in a big way, but the reps are still going to be really important for him to be in there and developing that next to Logan Wilson. Well, what's going to happen with all these second-round picks across the league, Knight included? And will he be participating? I don't, not until it's signed,
Right.
not until that deal is signed, probably not. Are we going to see movement on that? And will the Bengals be on board with whatever movement happens in that? So a little bit under the radar there is, hey, there's another little contract situation that maybe they're more dependent on because Knight has already been inserted as the starting linebacker here and can really use all the reps that he's going to be getting in camp to be prepared to take that over.
Yeah, I might be wrong about this, but I don't think he's allowed at all to practice if he's not signed. Whereas he was able to do the waiver in OTAs and be on the field, but he will not be able to if he doesn't get signed. When do the rookies report? To Saturday? I mean, 3 or 4 days away. So yeah, it's closing fast. I had that too. I had that as my third one. Not will he sign? Will he start day one of camp? But just how Carter, the 4th round pick, and Knight are going to look. So I'll pivot away from that one for my third one and just is this a bounce back year for Evan? There's a lot of questions there. Really down year for him, an injury year. They need him to get back to his rookie self. And what is he going to look like, and what happens if they paid him all that money? Not all that money, but he's at the top of the kicker chain. What happens if he starts the year slow?
Have you been hanging out with Jeremy Rao? Have you been hanging out with Jeremy?
I haven't, but
he made him his number one most interesting draft pick when we did the draft weeks ago. And I was like, hey, didn't see that coming, but I as I told Jeremy, I get it. I mean, it's going to be important and he's got to get back on track. They have confidence that he can, but he's got to go out there and show it. To me, it'll be more in Cleveland or against Jacksonville in a 4th quarter and the game's tied or they're down 3 and he lines up from 51. What's it look like? Because we saw too many of those games last year. And how long's the leash as the season goes on with Evan? How comfortable are they saying he'll definitely get it right? No one wants the Cade York experience, I don't think, again, of having to throw to T. Higgins from the 3-yard line over time. But I think that, you still have to ask that question when it did cost games last year. My third one, it probably kind of throws in. I have a couple here listed, so I'll touch on both of them. They're the last year's 1st and 2nd round draft pick. Amarius Mims, how good can this dude be?
Yeah.
And we don't spend much time talking about him. He looked really good last year. He got the experience that he needed, the raw skill, the attitude. No one really has talked much about him. And he's very, in terms of under the radar, sort of his ability to become a Pro Bowl type of tackle, I think is very much in play when you look at the arc of his development. That happening this year. And what is the Scott Peters impact on Amarius Mims too? I think Amarius Mims is going to be a really fascinating under the radar. See how big is a leap for him. What does that look like?
Yeah.
And, they're obviously confident with him as a starting level player, and he proved that last year. And I think was very impressive in the process, how he got better as the year went on in particular, but he has the potential to become a dominant player pretty quickly, and that can make a massive difference for this line. In the same respect, Chris Jenkins, not as impressive last season, needs to take a leap to be part of this rotation, and they couldn't need it more. I mean, they need him to be a guy so bad. They need him to take a leap so bad when you consider what's happening on the interior of the defensive line. And there's a lot of pressure on him to do so. Can he do it? I don't know. But there's a lot of people that are betting on the fact that he can, and they really need it. What does that look like? What does year 2 of Chris Jenkins look like? Will it look better? And there was a lot of excuses, and he was fine in spots. but it certainly needs to be better for them to feel better about that position, which is, I think, for me, clearly their weakest going into this season.
Yeah, and even if you go third round pick last year, if McKinley Jackson even if he makes a huge leap this year, you still need Chris Jenkins to do the same, because they're both defensive tackles, but they're different kind of defensive tackles. And Amarius too. I think I mentioned this on a previous pod, but I talked to him during OTAs, and he basically existed on raw athleticism last year. I asked him on a scale 1 to 10 how he thought his technique was last year, and he said 3. If that was a 3 last year, imagine what a 7, an 8, a 9 can look like this year.
No doubt about it. Before we get to Arby's, Jay, do you have some stats for me?
Yeah, well, so going back to the Ring of Honor, I did a stat of the J on all the Ring of Honor guys, and the Lemar one was one of my favorite ones. Lemar Parrish ones. He's been retired for 43 years, and he is still 5th in NFL history in non-offensive points with 78. The only players that have more, and this is kickoff returns, punt returns, fumble returns, interception return, anything that's not an offensive touchdown. The only players that are above him, 3 of the 4 are in the Hall of Fame. It's Deion Sanders with 114, Rod Woodson with 102, Rondé Barber with 86, and Ed Reed with 80. It just goes to show what I asked him about this on the pod, and he kind of took it more, and I didn't ask the question, or not on the pod, but in the Zoom today, and he took it more as I was like, with your history as a running back and how dynamic you were with the ball in your hands, like not a single reception, not a single rushing. Like, did they ever have a trick play or anything? And I didn't say trick play. I just said, did they ever consider putting you on offense? And he said they did consider it, and he knew he couldn't exist on offense because of his size. But I'm just stunned, especially with how creative Paul Brown is, that we never got to see Lemar do any kind of trick play and get the ball in his hands on offense, because that's pretty impressive to be 5th in NFL history, and that's in that category.
No doubt about it. Love that stuff. All right, Arby's. Let's get into some Arby's for you, Jay. What do you got for me in some Arby's?
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Jungle Gyms.
Jungle Gyms. We do love Jungle Gyms.
We do love Jungle Gyms, very much so. But no, Bengal Gym, Jungle to the Hall event is this weekend, Saturday, down at Newport on the Levee. An incredible event, raises a lot of money for charity. I know the paid portions, the autograph sessions, I believe, are sold out. You might want to double check on that, but I think those are sold out. But you can still go down there, see a lot of former players, a lot of current players. It's just a great event that they do, and it's kind of to bring recognition to these guys, to try to get more Bengals in the Hall of Fame. But the fact that they're raising money for charity on top of it all, it makes it a worthy few hours to spend on a Saturday afternoon. It's from 12 to 4 on Saturday.
Yeah, Newport and Levee. The amount of work that goes into having to put all that together is astronomical. And getting all those players, that stuff is hard. Getting all those players to come in, getting everybody set up, having the venue and all the vendors and everything that is a part of that. I was down there last year for it. It is great. I mean, it's a real deal event, and for him to put it on, I mean, it's independent of the Bengals. So it's not like the Bengals are doing this. I mean, Jim is doing this. And so kudos to him on all the work he's done to get it and pull it off, which I know it's going to be another great time down there. So yeah, highly recommend. Any Bengal fan should want to be down there, and a hat tip to Jim for all the work that he does and all his team over there to pull that off. It's pretty incredible, actually. I have to say, I have been pretty adamant. I like to feel like I have carried the torch of mock turtle soup over the years. I will never, I have felt like not enough people give the respect to mock turtle soup, not the meal, but what it represents. Not the little cup of soup. No, it's really not about the cow brains or whatever it is. I know I always go back to when Doc actually wrote everything that was in it at one point, but what it represents football is back and everything is exactly the same. The Bengals, they have a routine. The meal is the same. It starts with mock turtle soup. There's a sherbet involved. There's a meal that Mike Brown talks. It all feels it's comfortable. It's routine. It's what, to me, being around here a long time, it smells and tastes like the start of football season. And I don't like that routine or that tradition being taken away. And it was a little bit on the blocks this year. There was a lot of talk about, should the luncheon change? Should it be done differently? Should there be a meal? Just a standard reevaluation. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that everybody's looking to make things different. But I'd like to say it's staying. It's all staying. It's staying the same. Mock turtle soup is back. It has fought off being potentially pushed away out of the program, out of this beautiful tradition of discussing this really weird soup and turning it into something bigger. And so I am really excited to say that it's here. But the fact that it was on the block had me nervous for a couple of weeks, Jay. I love this event is known as mock turtle soup. I keep forgetting that you're supposed to call it like the media luncheon.
Yeah.
No, it's called mock turtle soup. We can't take that away. So kudos to everybody that was involved with preserving the rights of this tradition to stay exactly the same as it's ever been and never change. It needs to never change.
And Paul didn't literally stand on the table, but he proverbially standed on the table where he's like, no, this has to stay. We have to keep, because there was a lot of discussion about not even just doing away with the lunch, but flipping the order of things, or maybe just talking to one coach on Monday and then doing the others on Tuesday. And there was a lot of shuffling being proposed and a lot of debate in the media room. The kudos to the Bengals, because they didn't just say, this is what we're going to do. They said, what do you guys want to do? Discuss it among yourselves. And there were a lot of ideas, and Paul was steadfast in that, no, it has to stay as is. And it is.
Look, I'm just a traditionalist. Okay. I've been around here a long time and it makes me comfortable. So it's about me. Like, it makes me comfortable. It makes me happy. I like that it's there every year. I like that it's the same. I feel like it's like the most Bengals thing ever. It's just the same, right? This is what it is. Don't give in. Just be what you are. So I'm happy that it's back. And on Monday, I will be sending out the annual photo on X of the mock turtle soup, as we all are happy to be back in football again. Happy to be back talking about mock turtle soup again. All right, everybody, enjoy your weekend. Mark and I will be back with Who Dey Light on Friday. Send any questions that you have to the Growler podcast at gmail.com. Shout out to Josh Sneed for joining us last Friday. We had a blast on that show. We're still working on the Norwood lateral being the name of an actual play that they put in this year. It's in the works. And look out for the Power Stacks Growler crossover episode coming your way soon. You're going to like that. If you aren't subscribed to Stacks, make sure you're doing so. If you aren't subscribed to the Growler on YouTube, make sure you're doing so. You're going to want to do that with all of our training camp coverage coming right around the corner. All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching, for listening, and we will talk to you next time. Have a good one.